this whole idea of kind of knowledge is power, and I love that you say it's not, we're not looking at it as a reactive thing, we're looking at it from a place of empowerment. And I find, at least in my own practice, patients always love this idea of being monitored very carefully,
yes,
right? Very closely. You know, this idea of sometimes waiting even 3 months or, you know, whatever the time point is that we're doing their radiographic staging scans, you know, they often are troubled by, well, how do I know that something's not happening? So I think patients really appreciate that idea of you're being monitored, not only based on what we can see, you know,
right,
with our naked eyes on radiographic studies, but actually at a blood level, at a molecular level. So I'm glad to hear that was your experience.
And I think back to your point about we all have these patients, I think that is absolutely right. I think it's the bone-only patients, which are overwhelmingly ER positive. It's the lobular patients that we don't, bone scans we can't rely on, CTs, PET scans are insufficient. And so we know that there are molecular progressing patients, and we've known this for a long time. It's just that we've not been able to act on that information, and we didn't previously know how to capture them.
Right.
And so with this strategy, it's a phenomenally interesting. I think this is why there was so much excitement over the results.
Yes, I think it's the way forward, right, in the future, and I think we're all really excited about that.
Right.
So maybe just talking a little bit about the testing and about ESR1 in general, and just kind of, you know, thinking about how we talk to patients about that. I know I'm always explaining to them what ESR1 is, and, you know, this marker of resistance, and how I sometimes will use the analogy of like an antibiotic. You know, if your doctor puts you on the same antibiotic every winter for bronchitis, like eventually maybe you become resistant to that and we have to switch to something different. And that seems to be something people kind of understand. I don't know if that's helpful for patients, but, you know, just this idea that the longer we treat patients, particularly with AIs, the more likely we are to have, you know, the development of this resistant mutation, ESR1. Did you find that patients seem to be able to understand, you know, what that meant and grasp that concept?
Right. I love the analogy on antibiotics. I think it is an easier concept for people to understand rather than this whole molecular and cancer and genomic assessment. But I do think, to your point, patients, if we explained it accurately, which is we can drop your estrogen levels as long as we want and as effectively as we want. But if your tumor derives further capacity to constitutively activate itself, and that is exactly what happens over time. It becomes smarter, it outpaces our interventions, then that is when we can engage with a different agent that's going to totally bypass that need. And so I don't think it was very difficult for people to understand, so long as we could accurately communicate. And I think you beautifully explained a way that others can understand.